Yo, what's good, my peoples? It's your boy, Big Chris, aka Compton Animator, and I'm here to give y'all a review. This is November the 15th, 2013, and we're reviewing SmackDown Friday night. The show opens up with Wyatt's family, the two members, Rowan and Harper, versus the Usos. They start off with a pretty nice match here. If I believe so, the Wyatts get the win. And yeah, it was a pretty good match. Solid here, not a nice spots here between the Usos and the Wyatts. And a good pin from the Wyatts here. So let's see. Next we get the former Paul Heyman guys, Ryback and Curtis Axel. They're talking backstage to each other, and Ryback's kind of walking around just saying how pissed off he is of what Paul Heyman said and stuff like that. And then he's saying that if he has a problem with Paul Heyman, he'll deal with him, but if Curtis Axel is still a Paul Heyman guy, then he has a problem with Curtis Axel too. Then Curtis Axel lets it be known that he's no longer a Paul Heyman guy. So then he says that they both got to work together. So this leads on into their match tonight against CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, which this was a pretty good segment. I like that they took them both away from Paul Heyman. I think they need to try to strive on their own as far as doing what they need to do. I liked Ryback with Paul Heyman, but he wasn't doing anything in the ring. On the outside, he was doing some good stuff with Paul Heyman, but in the ring, it made it just flat. So it took a lot away from what it could have been. And Curtis Axel just had no charisma during the whole time. So hopefully they find something with Curtis Axel that he can do, and something to live through off of this. After that, we had another backstage segment with R-Truth rapping, and he also gets in the primetime players in there rapping with him. What's his name? Titus O'Neil starts doing like an old school type rap, and then Darren Young starts singing. And then they start doing a $1 million dance, which R-Truth was not kind of getting it right. So this was another pretty good segment. I like that they put in two backstage segments right here. We usually don't get a lot of backstage segments on SmackDown, but this was really good right here, and it helped lead into what was basically a filler match, but it gave it some some content, and it gave it a little bit of fluidity. So yeah. Next, we get a match with Natalya versus Tamina Snuka, and it's basically following up what happened on Main Event. They talk about the match off of Main Event and how Tamina basically kicked Natalya in the head, and Natalya lost her title match, and she ended up only winning by DQ but not winning the title. So hopefully this helps lead into having a Survivor Series match. Natalya comes on with the win after AJ tries to interfere, but she knocks AJ down, and so we get Natalya with a win, and AJ looking at AJ looking at Natalya on the outside. So hopefully this leads to something. And I like that they don't have Natalya talking here. I think just let AJ talk and let Natalya talk with her fist. So yeah, hopefully this leads into a match, at the pay-per-view. So next we get a backstage segment with Vicky Guerrero and Brad Maddox, and they're both talking about how each other's in trouble for what happened on Monday night, and Vicky's basically saying that no, they're in trouble for what happened on Monday night. Next, after that, we get the match between 3MB, aka the Union Jacks, versus the Primetime Players and R-Truth. A pretty okay match here. Nothing really big happened. You get the Primetime Players and R-Truth hitting their specials at the end, and then dancing after they win with the Union jackets on. So it was an okay match. Nothing really special there. After that, we get, let me see. Okay, after that, we get Alberto Del Rio and John Cena going against each other in the arm wrestling contest. I think Alberto Del Rio cut a quick promo before that, and then basically telling John Cena to come out, and then John Cena said something before it, but both of them was quick. And I really didn't remember what they said because I watched it last night. But yeah, both of them was quick, and they did what they needed to do. As far as the arm wrestling match win itself, that was quick too. John Cena just hit it both times, and when Alberto Del Rio was asking for a rematch, John Cena got ready to do it, and then he did the "You Can't See Me" thing to him. So that was pretty, whatever thing. It also kind of felt a little hellish, but I think it worked in John Cena's favor and got him a little heat there. And it also led up to what Alberto Del Rio did next when they got set up to try to do it again, the arm wrestling thing again. Alberto Del Rio took the loss and basically punched John Cena. And then that led into Alberto Del Rio kicking John Cena, then putting him through a table after John Cena tried to, get back up and fight him off, but he ended up getting put through a table. So, yeah, it was a pretty, nothing really said here. It was quick, short, to the point, and I really like this right here. That's, I think, the best thing of the night, that they weren't trying to overcomplicate things. They got off to the point and they got everything done quickly. So yeah, that was pretty nice to see right there. Next, we had the Funkadactyls versus the Bella Twins. Something I wanted to say about the earlier match with Natalya and Tamina. It was very quick. I think the match was no longer than two minutes, probably a minute, if so. So that kind of got me mad at that. I think they should have did a longer match. I know that this was the same crowd from main event, so that's probably the reason why they didn't do a longer match. And they also had another Divas match that's going to come. So I don't know. I think you should still give both Diva matches some good length of time, especially when something else happens in the night that pisses me off, saying, okay, you should have gave this more time. But the Bella Twins versus the Funkadactyls was a good, I think it was a 4-minute match or a 3-minute, but still they played the time well here, and they did what they needed to do. The one thing I came out of this match saying was that all 4 of the girls are looking better. I think the worst looking out of all of them is what's her name? Cameron. She still looks green in a lot of places, but I think the second worst is probably Nikki. But something about Nikki I would like to say is that I like what they're doing with Nikki Bella and how they're kind of taking her and making her the power girl of the Bella Twins. She started doing power moves, so they're kind of facing them off with resemblance of who their boyfriend is. So Nikki's doing more power moves like John Cena, and then Bree's doing more faster athletic moves like Daniel Bryan. So I like that aspect of what they having with the Bellas. It's kind of giving them character, which they desperately need, especially if you're gonna play them off his face. And then Naomi's how good she is. So it was really nothing there. So Funkadactyls end up coming in with the win off of a butt bump, I think they call it, by Naomi. A pretty okay match. It's a Divas match, so it's not gonna be great, unless you get a match with AJ and somebody who's really good. Also, speaking of AJ, I've heard that she fainted at a house show in London and in England or UK, wherever it was. So heart goes out to my girl AJ. Hopefully, it's not nothing crazy. I heard it was just like she was dehydrated. So, girl, drink water and take care of yourself. I understand some people are talking about that you're looking skinnier. So, just take care of yourself, girl. You're beautiful, whatever weight size you is. I thought Karma was beautiful at the big ass girl. So, just take care of yourself, girl. But talking more about this Divas match. I guess they're doing more of it for the Total Divas thing. So if they're going to do Total Divas, then give these girls 2 matches on the shows. So moving on from that, Funkadactyls wins a pretty okay match. Moving on from that, you had a backstage segment with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. It was an okay segment, real quick again. That's the story of the night. Get the stuff quick and get it done. So yeah, basically you had each of them responding yes to the questions of Renee Young, and then CM Punk and Daniel Bryan started talking about how he's happy to team up with CM Punk. Now it's the Beard teaming with the Best, and then CM Punk basically says, yeah, that's right, and both of them are going to kill is going to chop the head off of the Wyatts, which is Bray Wyatt, and then so that was a pretty cool segment. Next, we got Hunico and Camacho versus the Great Khali. This is probably one of the lows of the night. It was it was mediocre at best. Handicap match. So it was Hunico and Camacho. I don't know if I said that right the first time, but Hunico and Camacho versus the Great Khali. It's nice to see Hunico and Camacho in the division, I guess. So yeah, it was a pretty poor match. Let's see. Next, okay, before I talk about that, they did a Raw rebound, which took like 20 minutes. And I'm like, dude, you could have took that 20 minutes because they showed basically what they showed in that Raw rebound. They showed earlier tonight to introduce another match and or to do something with some other match and stuff like that. But they showed it twice tonight. They showed like a cut down version of, then they showed it the full version of it tonight. So yeah, I really didn't like that. If I understand doing a Raw rebounds, but doing them like quick and short. But when you show the full thing, like it makes no sense. I've already seen Raw. I don't need to see this again. And anybody else want to see Raw, they can watch it online. They put up all this stuff on YouTube as far as quick segments of it. So you can tell people to go to the YouTube page and watch it, but don't put it in the SmackDown. Don't have it last 20 minutes. Just make the matches longer. So after that, if it wasn't for this next match, I would have got really pissed. We got Daniel Bryan and CM Punk versus Curtis Axel and Ryback in a pretty nice little match here. It was kind of slow at for most of it, but it was technical and it was still pleasing from watching Daniel Bryan and CM Punk go down at it and really get a nice little match here. Towards the end, CM Punk, let's see. Okay, yeah, CM Punk had Ryback in something, and then the lights went out, and the Wyatt families appeared, but CM Punk and Daniel Bryan is nowhere to be seen. So you get the Wyatts looking around for CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. They can't find them. So what happens is that before the Wyatts can actually go in to try to do anything, Curtis Axel hops in the ring and gets pushed into the Wyatts by Ryback. He's trying to help Ryback up, but he ends up getting pushed into the Wyatts by Ryback, and Curtis Axel sitting there trying to say, "No, I didn't do this." So it's kind of a cowardly heel, type of thing. It was the most charisma I've seen out of Curtis Axel in forever, so that was pretty funny to see him act cowardly, and the Wyatts looked real menacing there, and then they basically beat the shit out of Curtis Axel. Then Ryback got up and they beat the shit out of Ryback and threw both of them out the ring, and they tried to look for CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. CM Punk and Daniel Bryan came from under the ring, attacked them, and then basically had a stare down with CM Punk and Daniel Bryan on the outside and the Wyatts on the inside the ring. So it was a really good end segment right there, and I like what they did there, and it made the Wyatts even look more stronger, taking on, beating the shot of two heels, one that's a champion and one that's supposed to be a monster. So, it was a really good end to the show. For me, I would say I would give this show a B, a solid B. I think it was pretty good. It's far from an A just because of the Raw rebound. If some of the matches would have went on for more time, I think it could have got a lot there. If you would have took out a couple of the at least the Khali match and put in something else that has story to it, probably something with somebody who's getting ready to go for the one of these titles that they have to go for Survivor Series, and a couple other things, you would have probably had an A show. But it was just a B to me. But yeah, still a pretty good show nonetheless. So you can find me on the web at Compton Animator. That's my Twitter at domain or whatever you call it. And then also put my website down at the bottom as well. And have a great day. Have a chill weekend, and peace.